Wheels. Hey, thank you so much for coming out here to David Ham's Playground with us, and joining ATV Talk. So three-wheelers are taboo, as they say. How is Dirt Wheels going to address the fact that they're not taboo?
I guess I would have to go with the people that actually get hurt on these things are the same people that get hurt on pretty much anything. They're not wearing their riding gear. They're not wearing their helmets. The guys like, you see here who would prefer to be on three wheels even over four wheels, that's their natural element. And to take that away from them just because a few bad apples don't know how to ride responsibly and go and sue a manufacturer, afterwards, it's not fair. So we ignore it. We love the three-wheelers. That's why I'm out here today. That's just the way it is.
So we have quite an arrangement of three-wheelers that we brought out here today, and we're going to get into some riding. Are you going to participate with us, or are you just going to be cameraman today?
Just cameraman today. I came up through two-wheelers and came over to ATVs in the late 80s. I think I rode a Banshee for the first time and was just hooked. Went out and bought one the next weekend. I don't have a whole lot of experience on three wheels. I'm kind of living that through these guys over again who, did it old school back in the day, and then some of them have stuck with the old school trikes, while these other guys have gotten on these modern three-wheelers, which I have gotten to ride. I got some time on Dave Ham's TPC and was amazed, for a guy that's not really into three-wheelers, how stable and smooth and, the excellent power of that machine. I was kind of impressed.
So that's what it's all about. So your guy, Dirt Wheels, is planning on covering the three-wheelers. That's why we're here today. We want to bring awareness to the three-wheeler industry. And we as a group, as another media outlet, do not believe that these guys, with all the professionalism they have and all the effort they put in, they don't get enough recognition.
Right. Yeah, and if you ask any one of these guys, they would rather be on three wheels versus four wheels. They're more comfortable. Obviously, they're a lighter machine. They can get the wheel up over stuff a lot easier. A lot of them are desert racers, so that's a key element. A lot of works racers here and stuff too. It's tough to see three-wheelers go away. It's been years ago. Honda is still upset about that, but to see these guys getting back out on the track and the race numbers coming up, more venues allowing them to race in their events and stuff, it's fantastic.
It's great. And you know what? We want to thank you so much for stepping up and coming out today. We really appreciate it. An organization as large as Dirt Wheels, or a publication as large as Dirt Wheels, coming to a small event like this, put on by a company such as ours, hey, thank you so much. Hey everybody, it's Leonard Duncan here. We're in the White Tank Mountains in Arizona in the base. David Ham has picked this location for us to talk about the three-wheelers of today, the three-wheelers in the industry. And so we're going to start this whole gig off with David Ham. David Ham, welcome, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming out to my world here in Arizona. Obviously, it's a beautiful day. Probably going to get up to mid-80s, and a great day to talk about three-wheelers here in Arizona. It's awesome.
Yes, it is. So my first question for you is, why three-wheelers, brother?
I've been riding multiple different types of motorcycles, quads, dune buggies, Odysseys, and three-wheelers my whole life, and these three-wheelers make me smile the most.
So it's a conversion from a four-wheeler to a three-wheeler.
There are a lot of parts on here that are Honda 450 quad parts. It's kind of a mix between a motorcycle and a quad, and we morphed the two together and made it happen. And this is the three-wheeler that I'm choosing to race. I think it's the best handling three-wheeler ever made myself.
So that question brings up the next question I have, is they talk about stability and safety with three-wheelers. The stability for this versus what came out in the 80s with Honda and Yamaha and Kawasaki. What do you think the stability factors are?
There isn't a huge difference between the stability. I'm running a real wide rear end on this one. It's just my own personal preference. But stability is about the same. But I can tell you personally, I race quads and dirt bikes. I feel just as comfortable and just as safe on this in any kind of environment as I do on a quad and a dirt bike. It's all what you've been used to, what you've been trained to ride. And as far as the safety person, I can tell you, I personally have gotten more hurt on a dirt bike and a quad than I have on three-wheelers.
That's pretty funny. But do you think it has anything to do with now you have longer traveled, better front suspension, longer travel, better rear suspension than you ever had on a production three-wheeler?
Correct. We spent a lot of time R&Ding the suspension on this, and modern suspension is just better than suspension we had 40 years ago. And I think that it's in that capacity, it's definitely a smoother riding machine than any other machine I've ever rode, and therefore that could be a big factor on safety and its stability.
So this machine is the machine that you won Vegas to Reno in 2023 on?
Not this exact one, but basically a replica of this with some different things. This is the machine that I have raced this machine in some of the best in the desert races and won, just not Vegas to Reno. I've raced it in Hare and Hound, I've raced it in motocross, and I just finished winning the Work Series for 2023. I got the championship in that, and this is exactly the setup that I ran all year in Works.
Didn't you also race a quad in Works? I'm not trying to overshadow or take away, but you did win a championship on a quad in the Work Series as well.
Yeah, this year I decided to double my fun and race a quad on the same weekends I've been racing the three-wheeler, and got lucky enough to get the championship on the quad class, on the 50 and over class, yes.
Is there any environment that you would say that you can't ride this three-wheeler in?
No, I think that this three-wheeler will go any place that a quad would go, and some things has a slight advantage over a quad. Just the fact that the front end on this, I can lift it up at any time I want without a lot of power or body English, where a quad takes a lot more power and body English to get the front end to lift up, and I can lift that front end up over obstacles, which comes in handy a lot.
So one of the things that I've seen in some of the other articles that they've brought up about three-wheelers is Jeep trails and the fact that it's an off-camber scenario where the three-wheeler tips over. You don't have that issue with this machine, do you?
No, not really. That's one of the reasons I chose to widen it up, because a lot of the trails out there today are side-by-side ruts in the trails, and they have a wider footprint than a quad normally does. So I chose to widen this rear end up so it sits down in that same footprint that the side-by-side does, and the front tire kind of rides in that middle line where no tire really runs. And that's probably in like long races like Vegas to Reno, that's our biggest concern, is the front tire running over obstacles that no other tire in the race touches. So we choose to run tire blocks, and that takes care of that issue.
The tire blocks keeping from getting flats and keeping the tire, if you're running lower air pressures, from collapsing a rim, something like that.
Absolutely. We've had zero issues in some of our long races with running the blocks and tire problems, or some of the guys who have been racing against choosing not to run the blocks. I don't think anybody's gone all the way through a race without a flat.
That's awesome. Go over some of the chassis modifications for me?
Sure.
We're going to talk on this side and then we'll transition. The radiator system that you have, it's a twin system just like you run on a normal three-wheeler. Is that an adaptation from a motorcycle for this machine?
Yeah, these are oversized radiators that are made for a dirt bike, Honda dirt bike. And so we just adapted them to this frame, and they work amazing keeping that motor nice and cool in some of the hot desert races that we choose to do.
Excellent. How did you guys decide the degree that you would run your steerings at? I know that that's been a question on the production models to change the rake of the front end. How did you guys come up with the degree or the rake that you wanted for this machine?
You know, Bill Casey, he owns TPC, and he designed this machine, and he took a lot of research off of the old three-wheelers of the 80s, talked to a lot of the pros back then, got some insight on which direction Honda was going to go with their rakes and stuff moving forward in the late 80s where they stopped making three-wheelers. And he came up with this magical number of degree that I'm not going to talk about, but it's very, very, very close to what the last year production of a 350X was.
Oh, that's great. That's good. I mean, I don't want to give away secrets or anything like that, but that's excellent that he's taken the time to come up with that. So the rear of this machine is a TRX 450R 06 model up, correct?
That is correct.
Looks like you're running the same linkage, same rear shock, or is it 0405?
No, everything there is 06 and up. The magic of this machine is almost every single part on this machine, you could still go into a Honda shop today and buy anything as long as they have it in stock over the counter.
Excellent. That's amazing for the consumer to be able to buy that. So a lot of your four-wheelers now run heel guards. Why no heel guards on the three-wheeler? Is it a safety issue that you should run, or is it a personal preference?
You know, I grew up riding three-wheelers since I was 5 years old, and I learned very early, as most of us have, not to put your foot down and keep your foot on the pegs almost at all times. And I personally, and the guys that I race with, they come from that same era, and none of us have had any problems ever with our feet coming off those pegs. So we just see heel guards and all the big stuff that goes on there to keep your foot from going and hitting the ground as just a nuisance and in our way. We've never had any problems with it.
That's awesome. So when we look at the controls, we're going to rotate this machine around so that we can get to the controls. So you have all of the same controls. You have a key, your temperature light, you're running a thumb throttle, the same one that comes on the four-wheeler. Anything special about this configuration that is different, or something that you have to change to make it work for you?
You know, we tried flex bars here a few years back, and every single person that's had the opportunity to ride this along with me in some of the team races absolutely fell in love with the flex bars and the easiness on the arms and the grip and no arm pump and all that. So we've just stuck with them. We love the flex bars on everything, and so that's it. I mean, that's the key for us. Other than that, everything on this is, like I said, it's stuff that you can get at any Honda shop that goes on a quad or a dirt bike.
That's pretty awesome stuff right there. 450R, TRX 450R master cylinder, and you're using the caliper off of the motorcycle. Is there a specific year front end that we use on this machine?
You know, I believe this is all 06 stuff off of a 450, but again, Honda is known for keeping their same bolt patterns for years and years on machines, so there's a lot of years that you can get aftermarket parts for the dirt bike components that are on this. It'll fit right on.
That's awesome stuff. It looks to me like everything is. I love the stand has got a mind of its own, and it's rotating. It's rotating for everybody to see something that it wants you to see, rather than what we're talking about. Everything looks like it comes off of the TRX 450R, other than the front. So the camera can see what we're looking at on the other side. So the viewer, as we're going to talk about the frame here, go ahead and describe how they adapted the three-wheeler portion to the front of this frame.
Sure. Right in the middle of that motor, basically from the middle on back, everything on that frame is straight off of a quad. The rear end, the swing arm, all that's components, everything there back is quad, and then TPC has configured the whole front end of that frame and built it to be on a three-wheeler. They have chosen to lock in the degree of the forks built into the frame, where some of the other guys have to do that in the triple clamps. And building the whole frame up forward gives us the luxury of building it to be more sturdy and straight up and down the angle that we want it to be. He does build frames custom that have a slight variation in the degree that people might want, whether they're doing it for TT racing, more desert racing, more motocross. There is magic numbers that people like for the degree and angles of the forks.
Sounds like he's a pretty smart dude.
He took a lot of time and in his words, did it the right way.
Well, I'm not arguing at all, because he's doing things that I hadn't thought of. I was thinking that you had to make all of your degree changes in your triple clamps to fine-tune it to get exactly what you wanted. But like you just said, he's a smart dude and figured that out ahead of time when he fixtured it. Does you think he has any plans to go with possibly an aluminum steel frame where you would have some gussets or some bungs in the frame where you could build this all out of aluminum and then bolt it too?
You know, he's building a new modern version right now, and not to give away too many of the top secrets he's got planned, but there will be a brand new modern dirt bike motor, fuel injected, coming out here in the next 6 months. That's going to be a little bit different than this, and we'll just have to wait and see what he comes up with.
Oh, that's pretty awesome stuff. And you chose to go with what length swing arm on your three-wheeler?
You know, this one is a +2 from Lone Star. It's actually about 1.5 inches longer than what would be normally on the three-wheeler, and we've played around with different lengths of swing arms, and we love the way this one handles, and everybody that's had a chance to ride it agrees that it feels great. It feels really good.
When you say +2 or 1.5 inches longer, are we going off of what an 88 or 86, 87, 85, 86 three-wheeler swing arm length is, or are we going off of the four-wheeler?
We're going off of the four-wheeler, so basically it would be a +2 if it was on a quad.
Okay. And you like that for the length, giving you stability in the whoops, or to keep the front end down, or what was the main reason to go to the longer swing arm?
You know, it's all of the above. It's a seat of the pants feel like I go off of 90% of the time, but it's all of that. The front end stays planted when I want to give it all the power it wants, and just by shifting my weight back just a hair on the seat, by giving it power, the front end becomes real light, and I can lift it up whenever I want. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
That's excellent.
So now just ask him about where you race the three-wheeler, or where you go ride it like for fun, and then wrap up. Okay?
Okay, sure. So we've covered a lot about your machine, but what I haven't asked you a lot about is when you go ride the machine, what terrain are you going? We know that you desert race, but are we taking this machine to the dunes?
I was in Glamis last weekend with this machine, so I ride this machine everywhere. Where we're at right now is my backyard, and we got endless miles of desert right here that replicate a lot of the same type of terrain that I race on in the long desert races. So this is an awesome place to do training, and I'm blessed to have this literally in my backyard. I can get here on this machine, ride it from my front driveway to where we're sitting right now in less than 5 minutes, and to be able to take off and go for miles and miles is a huge advantage on the hobby that I choose.
That's incredible stuff right there. So hard pack, sand dunes, Jeep trails, virgin desert, doesn't matter, you're going to ride this three-wheeler everywhere.
Everywhere, and that's what he designed this thing for. That's what the original three-wheelers were. They were all-terrain cycles, ATC, all-terrain cycles, and he just took it to the same direction, and he wanted a machine that did everything really, really good.
So when are we going to see you at the Dakar Rally?
As soon as we can get enough funds to go over there and do that. From what I understand, my pockets are nowhere near deep enough.
David, as always, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming out, bringing us to your backyard, your playground. We love it. Everybody, David Ham on three-wheelers. Thank you so much. Overall, this machine, the CRF on the TPC, it's a really good machine. It's got great power, handles well. There again, every machine I would make little adjustments for myself. More in just the handling on this machine, a little bit in the controls. It handles really well through the rough. I felt secure in the downhill washes. The turning is not a short course turn, it's more of a sweeping turn. So in the S's it's a little slow. Could be my skill level. Don't punish the machine because I got no skills. Overall, I liked the GoopTech machine and the TPC machine. They're both excellent machines. If you're going to ride one of these bikes, get in contact with these people because they're going to set you up with the modern day version of these three-wheelers. They're super stable, easy to ride. I haven't ridden a three-wheeler in aggressive terrain like that in 15 years or more, and I felt really comfortable on the two four-strokes, the modern day four-strokes, right away. I feel that making these minor adjustments, we could go on a big, long, full-tank ride or longer with either one of those machines. Ringle Gubler. you, bud?
Good.
Thank you for coming out, man.
Thanks for having me.
What do you think about these amazing freaking playground that David Ham brought us to?
Oh, I love this place. I got the pleasure to ride with him back in 2021. Came out, we rode a little bit of this area, and I fell in love with it. I love it.
That's awesome. So, you brought us out here today, or we brought you out here today to talk about your creation, and I want you to tell us exactly what it is.
Well, some of that's top secret.
Well, there's no such thing as that anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever you can tell us.
Yeah. So, basically, it's a YZ/WR platform.
Okay.
06 to 09 YZ or 07 to 11 WR. You can start with either one. This one here, in particular, is an 09 WR 450. And I built the swing arms, I built the subframes, and a lot of little pieces as well. Yeah, then I convert them using some other parts that were available, and then yeah, this is what you end up with. And it's really a dirt bike. You can turn this back into a dirt bike in a day. Really? So it's still, yeah, everything bolts up. In my opinion, this is if you're going to do a dirt bike conversion, this Yamaha platform is the way to go. And the reason for that is, and this is coming from a Honda guy, okay? The reason for that is it's the only one that has the correct geometry for the rear shock. You can use the ATV shock, it almost bolts in there. The swing arm, the stock swing arm almost bolts in, just slight modifications, and it won't bottom out. And that's the difference between every other dirt bike conversion on the market and this one.
Nice. So before we get into that,
yeah.
Tell me, why three-wheelers, man?
Well, I'm slightly mentally ill.
we were gonna go there, but all right.
Yeah. Well, you've been saying it for years,
right?
But no, it's something I think you grow up with. The guys that rode them when they were new, your dad bought one, you had one on the farm, you know, whatever. And that was our case. My dad bought a 250 SX in '87. It was 85. It was brand new from Big Valley Honda, and well, they weren't in Reno. They were actually in Gardenville, I think, at the time. But I still have that machine. I'm going to restore it here soon. But when you grow up on a three-wheeler, you just can't get it out of your system. Later on, we had blasters and banshees and you know, and other stuff. And I like quads, but there's just something about them. I know they're not as fast. I get it, you know, and in certain situations, I think they're faster than a quad, but I think overall, you're not going to beat a quad. But it's something about the feel that, I don't know, it's just a heart thing, I guess. I
just love three-wheelers.
I just love three-wheelers, you know, and I race dirt bikes. I've never raced quads, but I've owned plenty of them. I have tons of dirt bikes to this day. You hardly ever see me post about them or anything. I just love three-wheelers. That's
great. I'm glad to hear that, because there is a community of three-wheeler people that are unsung heroes like yourself that we don't talk about enough. Yeah. That's what brought us here today.
Appreciate that.
So your YZ-WR platform 450 Yamaha three-wheeler, she looks really beautiful. Where do you ride this machine?
This machine is actually brand new. It's a brand new build, so the only places I've even ridden this thing is on the race course. So I've had it to 2 races now. We did Laughlin. I was a second ATV overall, so I beat quite a few quads. That was pretty cool. That was the debut. We were supposed to have this thing done for Vegas to Reno. It just didn't quite get done. I had too much going on with work and whatnot. But then we backed it up with Gold Rush. We did 346 miles with Legacy/Fora, and did good at that too. We won that one, and it was flawless. It was just a flawless day. I haven't touched this thing since I was. I mean, I could air clean, and everything, just go through, make sure it's fine. But yeah, we just had a good solid day. We had a good pace.
That's outstanding. On some of the other models, what radiator system is this? Is this a factory system, or is this an oversized radiator that we're running?
It's oversized. The coolant capacity is almost double what a stock bike is. These are GPI radiators, and I think they're twice as thick, but they do hold almost double the coolant capacity. So
that's outstanding.
Yeah.
Did you have any problems with picking the degree that you ran the triple clamps at, or is it something that is top secret like the last machine that we looked at?
Yeah, so the last machine was what we call the straight rake clamps that another guy designed, and that's another good thing about the Yamaha platform is they have the best rake angle to start with, and so out of all the dirt bike conversions is what I'm talking about. And this one here, we took 2.5 degrees out of it. It's not really a secret anymore. A lot of people know about it. So I helped develop these clamps, or design the clamps. They're -2.5 degree rake. So what we're trying to do, there's no real secret. I tell everybody, I think the optimum angle for a three-wheeler is 23 degrees. That's roughly what a 350X is, and arguably they have the best geometry. Not totally the best machine overall, but the best geometry. And so we try to get close to that. We're not there. It could use another 1.5 degrees or so taken out of it. But it went from, with the straight rake clamps to these negative rake clamps, it just made the steering so much lighter. It would wear you out before. I mean, 5 miles flat out, and your arms were just done. And with these on there, I did 346 miles, and I never got tired. So
that's awesome. Yeah. On some of the machines, you'll see that they don't run Nerf bars, they don't run heel guards. You have Nerf bars and heel guards adapted to this machine. Is there a reason specifically why you chose that?
Well, the first time you put your foot down at speed, that's when you want Nerf bars. So, Vegas to Reno 2021, right? Was it Vegas? No, it wasn't Vegas to Reno. It was actually the first desert race I ever did in 2021 on a three-wheeler. Was with Fora. It was the Fallon 250, and I almost put my foot down. And I know better because if you run three-wheelers long enough, you've run yourself over. And I almost put my foot down and, whoa, wait a minute, and got my foot back up, and I thought, man, I gotta put my bars in this thing. And then the heel guards obviously keep your leg from going back, underneath the axle and stuff. I think it's a must. If you're desert racing, I think all machines should have these. And I know, I get it, they kind of look goofy. Some people really don't like the look. And the other thing is, what do you get to fit on this? This is a dirt bike conversion, so these are, I believe these are for a Raptor. I want to say a Raptor 250 or something like that.
Okay.
So, and they pretty much bolt on. Very few, or very small modifications.
As far as swing arm length goes, did you go from a traditionally longer swing arm, or did you pick a standard length from another machine to adapt to it, or did you come up with your own length based on testing?
So basically with testing, originally the first machine I built, we had the YFZ swing arm, the cast one, which is nice because it's light, but the way it was set up, we were trying to achieve a couple things. We were trying to lighten the steering with the negative rake clamps, but also we're trying to bring the front wheel back and also move the rear wheels back. And the point of that was to move the weight forward, to keep the weight on the front end. Because that's another problem a lot of the dirt bike conversions have, is they don't have enough weight on the front end. And so by moving the front wheels back, and then I decided to move the rear wheels back 1.25 inches from a stock carb model. Our models I think are a little longer. But this is a swing arm that I build. I made a jig off of the YFZ swing arm, and then I built these 1.25 inches longer. I can go up to 6 inches for sand or something like that. But.
Okay, so when you listen to some of the reports about three-wheelers and the stability and the things like that, the originally manufactured three-wheelers are claimed to be unstable. Yeah. How does this compare stability to that three-wheeler, like the 250R that Honda built, or the Tri-Z, or the Ducati? I mean, how are we stability-wise?
So, I actually just sold a Ducati that I had. I never owned a 250R up until about a week ago. I bought my first 250R. But I've primarily ridden 350Xs, a lot of Honda stuff. I have lots of things, 90s, 110s, 185s, 200s, I mean, just tons of different stuff. But the 350X is what I have the most experience on. They're all completely different. The 350X and the 250Rs, you can come into a turn, you can really hang, off that seat, get on the side of the bike, and you kind of have to, and to keep it from flipping in a corner. And these are different. It's just it's a different animal. You're not going to get on it. You know, you don't go from a dirt bike to a quad and think you're going to ride the same. It's just a totally different machine. So, stability-wise, this one here, this thing's on rails. I mean, I come into a turn, depends on the turn, of course, but, you know, some of these high-speed, flat-out turns, I mean, I'll come into a turn at 50, 60 miles an hour, and I don't even hardly put any body English into it, and it just sticks and goes. So it does really well. It is wide, it is long. The biggest problem that I see with the vintage ones for me, I'm 6'1", is the seat height is too low. Everybody talks about seat height, being high on these things. I actually like it higher because it straightens your leg out. If you look at maybe we can get a picture later on, but if you look at a 250R or 350X, when you're sitting on it, your leg is bent more than 90 degrees. It's actually up like this. And so going from that position to standing over and over and over for 300 miles, it just wears your legs out. Where this is a dirt bike still. The foot peg height is dirt bike height. The seat height is roughly dirt bike height. So you're actually a little bit less than a 90, and your legs are down like this, so you just, standing up is just that little bit.
That reduces fatigue.
Reduces fatigue. So I really like this platform. It's not for everybody. If you've ridden a 250R for years and then you get on this, you might hate it. I'm really easy. I can get on anything and find the positive in it. And of course the negatives, but there's so many positives with this platform for me. It's the one, as far as desert racing goes.
So on your production models, you see the cutouts for stickers, you know, that say single passenger only, things like that. Is this a single passenger only machine? And if it is, why?
I removed the little plaque over there.
Okay.
So, I mean, yes, it is a single passenger machine. All the quads were single passenger, you know, and everything else. And this uses all the YFZ back half. The plastics, the seat is I build the seats, but it's part of a dirt bike seat, part of a YFZ seat. But you could put 2 people on this safely. We ride 2 people on them all the time. I think everybody did for years. I mean, really, this machine is really purpose-built for just going fast in the desert. Is this going to work in an MX platform? Probably not. Is it going to work in a TT or flat track? Probably not. This thing is made to soak up big bumps and go as fast as humanly possible in the desert.
Well, I appreciate you coming out, Wrangle. I really do. This is Goop Tech. Wrangle, Goop Tech. The last thing before we go, I'm looking at your chain guide. That's pretty bulletproof right there. Are you trying to eliminate chain slap or eliminate rock infestation?
Rocks. So, you know, over the years I mean, I've been riding these things since they were you know, really new, or the late 80s, I guess I could say, as far as performance thrillers go. One of the problems that I've seen over and over and over, the rocks get in between the chain and the sprocket. It either breaks the chain or it pops it off the sprocket. You know, and then you're sitting there on the side of the track trying to get it put back on, if you can, if it's not broken. And so in 2021, when I decided I was going to race Vegas to Reno, I decided I was going to fully encase the lower part of the chain. And I've never seen anybody else do it. And so it worked really, really well. And so I came up with this design, just cleaned it up, made it, you know, refined it. And basically it's got chain slides, top and bottom inside of there. And so it helps the chain slap, yes, and all that. But it's just, that thing, you can absolutely smash rocks. And I have. That has 1,000 race miles on it right now. And I don't know if there's a manufacturer out there that can claim that for a desert application. You do 1,000 miles on any skid plate, it's going to be junk, basically, I think. That one there's got 1,000 on it, and it would go thousands more, I'm sure. So, but yeah, that's what the chain guide's about, is just keeping the rocks out of there. And so far it's worked. I haven't lost a chain.
That's outstanding. Brother, hey, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate this.
Absolutely.
There's not enough people giving you three-wheeler guys enough print. We're hoping that ATV Talk can do that for you.
And thank you for bringing me out, and thank you for doing what you do, because, you know, guys like you are keeping this alive for a lot of people.
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you. built an amazing machine here. It has great acceleration, great smooth power. There again, personal preferences, I'd like to change a couple things, but other than that, it's an enjoyable ride, comfortable, much more terrain friendly. It likes to be ridden out there in that kind of rocky, rough terrain with the washes and the dips. It's not as comfortable in the S's or the tight technical turns. Still turns well, but not like the Yamaha, the BVC Yamaha. It tended to drift a little better in the turns, but this one will go through the bumps, 2-3 gears higher than that one ever thought of going. So this one was a lot of fun to ride. I liked it. I could see myself spending a little bit more time riding this machine, making a couple adjustments in the controls to suit myself. Wrangle's about 18 feet taller than me, so that makes it a little difference in the way he sets his controls. But it's a good machine, really comfortable. If you're going to build one and you're thinking about running something like this, call Wrangle. He'll set you up. Julian Holford, how are you, buddy?
Life's good, and yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Hey, thank you for coming out and playing with us in the desert, man.
Oh, that's what I live for.
That's awesome. David Ham picked a good spot, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait to rip it up.
I know everybody's excited, wants to get all this part done so that we can go ride.
Absolutely.
I can't wait either, because I'm going to get to test these amazing machines. So we have here, is it an 85 or an 86?
An 85.
85 Honda ATC 250R with lots of modifications.
Oh, yeah. About the only thing original is the frame, and that's been modified, and the forks, and the engine cases. That's been modified, too.
Oh, so we've changed just about everything.
Just about.
Excellent. So why did you pick three-wheelers?
I always found them interesting because they were a little bit outlaw, a little bit dangerous. Not your average guy could ride them. It took a special somebody to be able to swing a leg over it, and I always felt that was a draw for me. That and anytime you pull up to one with one in the bed of your truck at a gas station or something, you get an old timer. I used to have one of these. These are so cool. I had so much fun. I broke my collarbone. All the best times of your life are had on a three-wheeler.
We could have left the broken collarbone out, but that's okay. So you have a Yamaha hat on and you ride a Honda.
Yamaha.
You have a Yamaha hat on. I love to ride Yamaha.
Your mama.
Your mama. Oh, I guess I got to learn how to read.
Play on words.
Okay.
Well, I'm a fan of both. I've got a Tri Z250 that I race and a Banshee that I race.
That's why I was reading it that way. So you come from the flat track environment, and now you're a desert racer?
I've been in desert my whole life. I got into flat track just because it was a good time and I didn't have to leave the ground. And desert. I've always rode desert. I've been riding the desert since I was 2 years old, and the desert racing kind of came natural to me because of that. I've always loved riding. I just never liked looking back and waiting for people. So desert racing was the opportunity to never look back and just ride as fast as you wanted. And that was a cool opportunity for me. And started doing local D38 races on my dirt bike, and then I was also into the three-wheelers, but they don't allow three-wheelers for some reason. And I started getting into racing with like Lyle Tonelli, and started racing Noro races and down in Mexico, and we did Vegas to Reno last year. And that kind of is what set it all off for me. That's what made me really want to push and start doing it on my own and doing my own bike and seeing how far I could push myself. And Vegas to Reno was a dream of mine to do for a long time. And doing it with Lyle, it was a good opportunity to see if I was able to and if I would even stand a chance. And I thought I could, so I went out and did it, and glad I got it done. It was definitely a bucket list item. Glad I was able to say I finished it. For weeks going into it, I was worried, what if I don't finish? Then, I'm going to, it's going to be mile marker 370 or something. That's going to be my stopping point, and I've got to push through it, and I'm going to have to do all this next year because I'm going to have to prove it to myself. So I was very happy to do it and call it done. I'm not sure if I want to do it again or do something different. I was thinking maybe score races. I'd like to see if we can get into a score 400 or 500. I think that would be an awesome opportunity. I'd love to still do the NORRA 1000. That's an awesome experience. You get to, view or go see Baja and in less of a racing environment. It's still a race, but, you don't have trophy trucks breathing down your throat. It's a little bit safer. You get to see all the sights and see them during the daytime because you have 5 days to do it. And that's a race I love and I can't wait to do again.
That's so cool. You have on your 250R an four-wheeler swing arm.
That's correct, an 06 TRX 450R swing arm.
What linkage did you go with on that?
I actually got the linkage with the swing arm. A buddy of mine hooked me up with it. He was going to do the same thing, put it on his three-wheeler. I'm not sure what brand it is.
It's not the traditional linkage. It's an aftermarket setup.
That is correct, sir.
It has a lot of droop out in the back there.
Yeah.
It also runs the TRX 450R rear caliper.
Yeah, rear caliper, it's actually 400EX carrier and axle, but it does have the brake stay and caliper mount for a TRX 450R. Those are just much more readily available than a 250R. As many of the enthusiasts know, they're almost impossible to come by. So I was able to order 2 of those for the price of a rebuild kit for mine. So it was worth the R&D to be able to adapt it.
You gotta love that. You even put different clamps on your machine and went to a flex bar on a 250R 2-stroke that most people run a stiff or a solid bar on there.
That's correct. I got these anti-vibe top triple clamp, and it has the anti-vibe mounts in there, and then this goes to here. So on the traditional 250R, they hang back to about here and go to a 7/8 diameter bar. This brings it up forward, which is better because, I'm a little bit taller guy for what these were designed for. And then as well, I'm able to run the flex bars, so it makes night and difference, especially after 521 miles. That'll make a huge difference in the ride and the quality of ride and the quality of recovery after the ride.
You're also running a Nerf bar heel guard setup on your machine. Is there a reason you went to a Nerf bar heel guard versus the standard just foot peg?
Yes, and it is. I don't like the look of them. It's all about functionality, and the second that you don't slip your foot off and get it stuck in the tire is the moment it paid for itself as far as aesthetics for me. I do like the looks of the traditional single foot peg. That's what's appealing to me. It's a part of the danger factor, but when you got to ride 500 miles and you're tired, that can save your butt, that can save your ankle, that can make the difference of finishing or not finishing or even a hospital trip.
That safety is everything, right?
Yeah, functionality.
Yeah, safety, function. Everything it looks like you've done to this machine is all about function, and there's nothing that's excess that you don't need, correct?
It seems for the most part, yeah, everything is based around functionality and getting to the finish line. Like here, we've got built a trunk out of PVC piping and adapted it to the frame. And the reason I put it here is in the past, we've broken 6-pack racks off because the weight's, a foot behind the subframe. So if I can move the weight up here, that's less leverage on the bike. So I figured that's going to be better, and it held up for Vegas to Reno and all the rides since then. So I've been really happy with that. And then here, same idea, moving the weight forward. I put some of the lighter and softer stuff in here. This is just a fanny pack that I got off of Amazon. I stapled to the seat pan, and it works great. I couldn't ask for more out of it for what I have into it.
That's outstanding stuff. A steering dampener, flex bars, traditional 250R forks that you don't see in the aftermarket machines. And some of the machines you raced against in Vegas to Reno were the conversions where they had motorcycle suspension versus the traditional manufactured three-wheeler suspension.
Yeah, absolutely, and I believe that this style setup of suspension is the best for this frame and this bike. I believe that if you were going to a dirt bike frame or a modified frame where you're, expected to run the heavier suspension and have more horsepower and a stronger frame, then you could run the upside down forks. I've seen and heard of a lot of issues with the upside down forks on these frames, cracking them and whatnot. So for me, this suspension does really good. My sponsor, San Diego Small Engine, they set up the suspension for me, and it's ridden better than any three-wheeler I've ridden so far. That might change today with riding some modern trikes, but my whole life I've rode vintage bikes, and this is the best handling one so far.
That's pretty outstanding stuff. When you talked about riding in Vegas to Reno this year, you Ironman that whole deal, didn't you?
Yes, sir. Start to finish, every mile was under my boots.
Did you at any point say enough's enough?
I wanted it to be over, but by the time I actually considered quitting at a serious point, I had about 70 miles left, and I knew I would never forgive myself if I gave up at that point. At that point, I was so far into it, so far had been put into this race and out of me, and I knew I'd had to finish it. I'd never forgive myself. So I just pushed through, made it happen, and I'm very grateful that I did.
So are we. So you in the publicity market or in the media market, a lot of people talk about the safety issues with three-wheelers. In your view, are three-wheelers getting skewed in a bad light?
Only by people that don't know how to ride them and don't understand that, want to take responsibility for their own actions or the actions of others. You know, in my opinion, that three-wheelers are very, very similar to a firearm in the sense that it all comes down to the person that's holding it, the person that's riding it. You know, you could hurt yourself on this bike today, no problem, but I could ride it for 521 miles and be fine. You know, same with a firearm. You know, I could have a firearm in my vehicle or in my home for 30 years and it never hurt anybody. But you put it in the hands of the wrong person and it could be devastating.
That's a pretty good analogy. The light system that you put on, did you have to do anything special to get the LED lights to function for you?
So on these, I do not use any of the original stator or anything like that. It actually doesn't have a lighting stator. It's actually got more of like a magneto system. So it's all ridden off battery. I've got a Milwaukee 18-volt battery that's in the airbox. And Gooptech Wrangle, you guys interviewed him earlier. He did the wiring harness for me that fit the bike perfectly and the mounts for the lights. So I got an amber light here and a clear light here. This is for when you're hauling butt in the dark and you can, view 300, 400 feet ahead of you. And then when you're stuck in the dust, you turn that off so it's not blinding you, put on the amber and it'll cut right through the dust. And then as well, he went the extra mile and added this cover so when you have the white light on, it's not reflecting off your front fender into your face. And then as well, when you have the amber light on, it's not reflecting into the dust at eye level into your eyes. So that was probably one of the most crucial points of this bike for Vegas to Reno, especially when the sun went down, which I would say half my race was rode in the dark. I finished at, I think 3:20 in the morning or 3:40 in the morning. So, I was probably in the dark since 7. And then as well, I got a tail light on there that is ran off the same battery, and that I'm sure is a lifesaver because it is super bright, but you need that when you...
How many batteries?
Just one.
That battery went the whole time?
No, I exchanged batteries at pits.
Each time, every pit? So roughly every 50 miles, or was it every 100 miles?
Only in the dark. The tail light could run all week on the one battery, no problem. When you start running the headlights, that's when it starts draining batteries. So as soon as I was in the dark, I was changing batteries every pit. I actually stopped because I had a flat tire and was going real slow, and I had to stop somewhere. And one of the reasons I went with the Milwaukee batteries is you can pull up to almost any crew or pit or whatever sitting on the side of a race course. Anybody got a Milwaukee battery? And I've had somebody trade me out a charged one for my empty one and put it in and kept going. And that was one of the reasons I went with Milwaukee's. You can find them almost anywhere.
That's pretty awesome stuff. That was good thinking. Did you come up with that one on your own, or was that something that you and Wrangle talked about?
I thought of the Milwaukee battery on my own. Wrangle, sided with me, thought it was a good idea. I believe he runs a very similar program on his bike, and it's just one of those. It's pretty universal, and they're tried and true, and you can get them fairly readily available.
That's so cool. Julian, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. We're gonna get to go ride in this amazing sandbox or toy box of trails and cactus and rocks, and I hope to see you out on the trail today.
Absolutely, can't wait.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. About this freaking place that David Ham brought us out to.
It's not bad. Yeah, it's pretty typical Arizona desert.
Yeah, that is true. Rocks, sand, dirt, cactus.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
But you know what? It couldn't be a nicer weather day. It's beautiful out here.
No, it's great. I mean, this is why I live here. I mean, it's from now until April, May, it's pretty much gorgeous.
That's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
That's what. Well, we were going to come during the summertime. A little too hot for that.
It would have been definitely hot then.
So I've asked this question on everybody. I'm going to ask you, why three-wheelers, man?
I'll tell you what. For me, everyone's got a little different story probably, but I rode my first three-wheeler in 1982. It was a 185S. I rode it on the beach in Mexico, and I don't know why, but I had so much fun. I mean, that was probably one of the funnest days of my life as a kid to that point, is riding that three-wheeler. And I came home, I told my dad I wanted one. 6 months later, we bought my first brand new Honda 110, and I've been hooked ever since. And I started racing them. Within a few months after that, I was racing the 110, and I jumped to the 250R. And even when the 4-track squads came out, I bought one brand new because I thought it was cool. I let it sit in the garage. I didn't ride it. I didn't want to ride it. I didn't like riding it. I liked riding the three-wheeler. I was a die-hard three-wheel guy. It took me probably another 3 or 4 months till guys started beating me on the quads to say, all right, maybe I need to try riding the quad. And eventually I did, and that's kind of the way things evolved at the time. But I've always enjoyed the three-wheelers. I think they're more fun to ride. I think they're easier to ride. I love them.
Well, that's a good explanation, you know. You got a 2005 YZ250?
2015.
2015, excuse me.
Yep.
YZ250.
Yep.
BVC conversion.
Correct.
What made you go to the conversion? And it's a two-stroke, and everything else we've seen, other than the standard 250R, is four-stroke.
Well, I'll tell you, I did not build this bike, so I bought the bike as is. I've always been a two-stroke guy. I mean, I'm just now, the last couple of years, becoming a four-stroke guy, but always liked the two-strokes. I know the modern two-strokes are a little bit improved from the old two-strokes, from an old 250R. As far as the conversion trikes themselves, you got better suspension. There's definitely perks. So when I saw this bike, I'm like, yeah, why not give it a try?
That's awesome. What do you think of the conversion that they've done for you in this fashion?
I haven't got a lot of time on it yet. There's good and bad. I mean, the modern motor runs great. I mean, so as far as the new two-stroke motor, I love it. The rear end on this is nice. The BVC parts are all 450R parts. They're really nice parts. Unfortunately, the difference between the modern conversions, you've got the dirt bike conversions and then the quad conversions. It's a dirt bike conversion. It sits too low. So just completely honest, it sits too low. It's too low for me. It's not the best bike for out in the terrain we're at today. I want to try it at the track. I'm going to try it at the dunes. I mean, I'm going to give it a shot because I love the bike, but that's the biggest downside is how low it sits. Everything else, it actually handles great. The suspension's amazing. It actually turns pretty good. Being that it's raked out a little bit more than some of them, but the ground clearance is the downfall.
Did they change the angle of the forks in the triple clamp system?
I'm not sure on this setup because I did have a BVC 450X conversion,
and seemed like it was raked out farther. I don't know if it's just the difference in the Yamaha frames. I heard there's just tiny bits of difference in the angles, but this BBC does seem to be better than other ones I've seen and the other one I owned. It seems to have a little bit of better angle.
Is there anything that you've noticed on this conversion machine that catches your eye, like was a really trick thing that they've done? I know they switched over the front wheel system. They're using the Yamaha brake system.
Right. I mean, as far as conversions go, it's pretty standard. I mean, pretty much all the rear ends are based off the Honda as far as BBC. When BBC does it, and some of the other companies, they're using all the Honda 450 rear end stuff. The front end, the forks are using off the dirt bike. There's nothing really special about this one. The biggest thing to me is just that it's a two-stroke. Most of the conversions are the four-strokes.
How's the vibration?
It's not bad.
Not getting tingles in the fingers.
Not bad. Like no. I don't have a lot of time on it, but I mean, one day we took it out and probably rode a good 45 minutes, and it was fine. It didn't bother me.
Would you say this setup is more motocross or leaning towards off-road?
No, definitely not the off-road because of the ground clearance. So definitely more motocross. Maybe even we were talking over there, maybe more try it flat track. I bet it would be great in the dunes. Just anywhere where you don't need a lot of ground clearance, I think it would perform pretty well. But once you get out here, you start hitting the whoops and the rocks. I need more ground clearance.
I noticed it doesn't have a swing arm skid plate.
I haven't gotten around to putting them on yet. This is pretty much the way I got the bike. We've tuned the Electron carb on it, got it running a little bit better, switched out the grips. I've done a few little things. Definitely need to get some skid plates on it. Again, it's not intended to be a desert bike, so I don't have to have the skid plates, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to put them on.
The color sure is bright, isn't it?
Yeah, it stands out. I mean, I've always been a fan of the old Ducati three-wheelers. To me, they look like they're going 100 miles an hour sitting there. Reliability, everything, I'm going to go Honda, but I like looking at Ducati. It looks like it's going fast. Same thing with this. It caught my eye. When I saw this bike, the colors, it just stood out. I mean, you can see this thing from a mile away, so definitely kind of cool.
Also, you don't seem to be running a heel guard system or a Nerf bar system. Is that something in the build, or
no,
is it just something that you don't prefer to have?
I don't even run Nerf bars in my quads. I'm not a Nerf bar guy. I'm not a heel guard guy. I grew up riding three-wheelers. I never raced or rode dirt bikes, so I never put my foot down. So I never felt like I needed those. Especially in the desert, to me, it feels like they get in the way. I mean, more chances of getting caught in a bush or a rock or a stump. I'm not a hill guard guy or a Nerf bar guy.
I know you have a 250R.
Yep.
The stability versus the 250R.
This is definitely more stable, wider, longer. I don't necessarily have a problem with the stability on a regular 250R, 350X. I widen the rear ends, and I'm used to riding them, so I don't have a stability problem per se. But I can definitely tell you, whether it's this or any of the modern trikes, the TPC we race, very, very stable. I don't feel any more unstable on a modern trike than I do on my quad.
That's just a characteristics of the fact that you've spent so many years riding them?
I think a lot of it is experience. Other than experience, I definitely, like I said, the modern trikes, they are wider, longer, taller. The 250R, I have to have a tall seat on my old bikes just because I'm a tall guy and I can't ride a regular stock 250R. I feel really cramped on it. These bikes feel like they're built more for, taller guys. The older trikes just seem like they were maybe a little bit small, in the times. And these are more quad size, I guess.
The last few that we've seen were thumb throttles. You're a twist throttle guy, or you haven't converted it to?
No, I'm twist all the way. Yeah.
And you run a twist throttle for control issues?
The thumb tires me out, to be honest with you. I mean, the only time I ever liked a thumb throttle was when I did motocross, 30 years ago. I was okay with the thumb throttle, but I'm primarily a desert racer, and when you're racing 100, 200, 500 miles across the desert, you just get a lot less tired with the twist.
That brings up my next question. The terrain that you prefer to ride in is more where we are today, out in the desert?
Absolutely, yeah. I got my start as a desert racer, and I love being out in the desert, the natural terrain. kind of, I want to say not knowing what's coming up, but when you're racing, obviously they mark the dangers, they put down arrows and things, so you're not just blindly hitting something, but rather than just a repetitive track going round and around, I like the desert.
That's good. Says a lot. And you have a motocross bike to go ride.
Right.
They run a flat track in Southern California area. Are you thinking about swapping the tires out?
I actually am. We were just talking about that a few minutes ago. As I might just swatch out some tires and lower it a little bit and go try it.
That would be great. I think it would be an outstanding platform for that. BVC YZ250. I had a lot of fun going out on my first ride. David took me on a really cool trail. This machine doesn't seem that its forte is to be ridden in that terrain. So I'd like to ride it on a different kind of environment where maybe it wasn't so off-road, so desert. It seems like a good machine. It's got plenty of power. Obviously, I don't need to go that fast, so the size of the motor isn't it. We could do some suspension work, change some cushions in the handlebars, and make it a little better for myself. But if you're looking to go ride a machine, not in a desert environment, maybe in the dunes, this thing would be great. Go out there, try it out, and have a good time. So, Dave, we're back with you again.
Yep.
Quick change, right?
Machine number
Boom!
2.
Here we are. So, we brought your 350X out because this is the machine that you spend most of your time on. There's a couple differences between this machine and the other machine that I want to bring up really quick. You have rotor protectors on each end, the plastic coverings over your rotors. What's the reasoning for that?
Well, Meyer made these covers back in the 80s, when we were all racing back then. And back at the time, I would just always run them. I mean, just for protection from rocks, mud, whatever the case might be. Well, in the early 2000s, the three-wheeler industry kind of slowed down, and they got rid of all the molds. And so I'm like, hey, we need that stuff. We're starting to race trikes again. So I actually worked with them and brought all this stuff back. So these are products that I actually make and sell. But again, it's kind of twofold. One is obviously protection. I mean, it helps keep your forks from getting scratched, rocks getting in there, dirt, mud. Same with the back. And to me, they look cool. And it kind of brings back just that 80s memory of racing back then to today's trikes.
Nostalgia.
Exactly.
Gotta love it. You also have a device up here on your handlebar.
Yep.
This is made by Trail Tech.
Yep, that's correct.
And it's the Vapor.
Yep.
Why do you have this machine on there? Just from my deal, they used to run for, hour meter, water temp, things like that. You don't have water temp.
No, it's just kind of cool to have on there. RPMs is on there. I keep it set on RPMs. It has mileage. Like if I go do a desert ride or the dunes to see how far I've been, it helps kind of keep track of gas as well. It's got a speedometer on there, which 350X isn't the fastest thing in the world. It's kind of cool to know how fast you're going. So I don't know, just a little something on there to play with.
Why did you pick this machine over that cool YZ250 that you have? I mean, this thing's 100 years old.
It is, but I mean, one, I just got the Yamaha recently, but it's kind of a hard transition. Just like I said, going from the three-wheelers to the quads in the beginning, I'm an old school guy. I like the things that were made in the 80s. I think they did a great job back then, and they still perform today. So, and it's another reason why I have multiple machines, because I think there's a different machine for different types of racing, different types of riding. I was always a two-stroke guy when I was young. I didn't start riding a 350X to probably 5-6 years ago. And I don't know, maybe it's part of age. It's just a nice, smooth-running machine. When I race a works race on this machine, I'm literally full throttle the whole time, just shifting gears. It doesn't have that yank of the two-stroke that tires you out. It doesn't have the extra wheel of the quad turning that tires you out. I can run 50 minutes in a works race on this machine and I'm ready to do another 50. When I get off my quad, I'm dead. I'm laying on the ground, like drinking a Gatorade, like trying to catch my breath. You know, this, I'm ready to keep going.
So that being said, I understand that we are of a different age bracket. And what do you do to keep yourself in shape so that you can ride this machine?
Kind of embarrassing. I don't do much. I mean, I honestly say I don't go to the gym. I don't run. I just ride bikes. I mean, you know, I'm constantly, you know, during the day, my average day, I'm running back and forth to my shop. I'm working on things. I mean, I guess that's a little bit of exercise. But to me, riding and just the knowledge and skill of riding my whole life, I think is what does it, that I can still do it at this age. I mean, when I was 30, did I think I'd still be riding at this age? No. But I see my dad who's 70 and he's still riding. So it gives me hope. And I think as long as you stay in somewhat decent shape and you just have the knowledge of riding these machines, you can keep doing it.
Is there any other specific modifications that you've made to this machine that are traditionally not made?
No, I mean, I basically set this up the same way I would have set it up 30, 40 years ago. If I was racing this thing in 1986, I pretty much would have done the same thing. I got the old school wax-on tall desert seat that, you know, you haven't been able to buy for years, but I'm lucky enough to have a few of them. I'm a tall guy. I need the tall seat. When you're riding and you stand up, it's so much easier standing up from that distance than on a low seat. I've got the Meyer fenders on here. Number one, because the original fenders are too dang expensive to keep on a bike that you're going to race. So I pulled all the nice original fenders off. I put the Meyers on and decaled them up. You know, I had all the decals made and put them on to make it still have the original look. I've got skid plates on this one because this is more of a desert bike. It's a work/desert bike. I've got my guards on it. You know, I got the 24-inch front tire.
Yeah, I was just going to point to that.
Not many people will notice that it looks just like a stock original front tire. It's a 24-inch. That never came on a three-wheeler back in the day. My educated guess is Honda had that tire produced for the ATC 500R that was coming out, that was going to be a taller, bigger machine. I feel like they were going to put that tire on that machine. The machine never came to be because that's when everything got shut down. I bet they had a run of those tires, and then they sold them as replacements for 200Xs and 350Xs. I love it. It's a little bit taller, and I'm lucky enough to have a few of those tires, and I wouldn't run anything else in the front of this.
Most of the tires on the conversions that we've looked at today look small.
They're small. I don't like them. A lot of them are running.
They're 23s.
They're running 10-inch rims. I've seen guys run 21-inch front tires. I've seen 21s, 22s, 23s. Even the 23s, I don't think the modern 23s are a full 23 like they used to be. I guarantee you this tire is probably 2 inches taller than most of the other tires that we have sitting over there today.
Yeah, it is. It looks much, much different. And you have a twist throttle on this machine.
Yep.
You even have the old style twist throttle on there.
Yeah, better gasser.
Yeah, you can't buy this style throttle anymore. You have the reservoir cage. I know you have a box of these at your shop. Yeah. We have quite a few as well. It's just something that in the 80s that they had that you don't see any of the stuff anymore on these machines.
That was the first two things you bought back in the day. When you bought a three-wheeler, you bought the reservoir guard and you bought the headlight guard. And obviously I don't have a headlight on for racing, but if I had a headlight on, I'd have the headlight guard and the reservoir guard. First two things you bought.
250R, 350X, yeah.
Didn't matter. Yeah.
And they were all made out of steel. Most of them were red.
Yep.
You know, same color as they came off the showroom floor. You said the Meyer Plastics. You have some HRC and Otsu decals on here, which are really old school?
They are.
Or are those remakes?
Well, those are remakes of the old school decals. I have some of the original ones, but, you know, I've always, again, liked that old 80s style. You look at any of the old Team Honda racers or the Kawasaki racers, they had their decals up the side of the fender. I just like that old school look.
You run wheel spacers instead of a wider axle because of the lack of being able to find one?
That's one of the reasons. It is hard to find an aftermarket wide 350X axle. The 250R ones you can find. I think I do have one 350X one in my shop of 1 million axles, so one day, you know, I'll probably put it on. But yeah, I mean, I'm not jumping, I'm not doing motocross crazy stuff on this. I think the wheel spacers are fine. If I was doing things that I thought the axle was more at risk, I probably would definitely have an axle on here.
But you probably have backups.
Yeah.
You have backup stalkers at the ATV
I have
Addiction.
A stack of them, yeah.
Excellent. Dude, I really appreciate you coming out today. I know that we're trying to promote the three-wheeler industry and more recognition for the three-wheelers. Everybody can find you at ATC Addiction.
Yep.
As well as the group is, as a family, do you think that the three-wheeler guys are coming together, understanding that they need to be a tighter knit group?
I think so. I think a lot of them have been to begin with. Later year, lately there's been a little bit of riff in the community, but overall I think most three-wheeler guys are great. They all appreciate the machines. We want to try and promote it. We want to try and get more people out there. We want to get young kids out there. We want to get the 20-year-olds out there and keep these things going. I mean, and I've had 20-year-olds that will ride it, and they say they have more fun than they do on their quads. So, we're all trying to get together and make parts and keep these things going.
As far as the safety and the issues with some of the things that they write about, how do you address that when that comes up in a conversation?
It's funny. Guys that don't really, haven't had a three-wheeler, don't understand much about them, haven't ridden one, a lot of dirt bike guys or maybe, younger guys that are on the quads. Oh, yeah, that's a death machine. Well, honestly, they don't have much experience. They've never ridden one. I think if you give it a chance and you try it, I don't think it's more dangerous than anything else you're going to do, honestly.
Well, extreme sports are extreme sports.
Exactly.
Whether you're on a skateboard or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten hurt worse on a skateboard, a mountain bike. I mean, things that you would consider, most people consider not dangerous whatsoever. I've been hurt worse on those than I have on a three-wheeler.
All the scars on my face came from the mountain bike.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all relative. I mean, you just have to be smart. One of my biggest pet peeves, they say three-wheelers are dangerous. Back when the ban happened, the majority of the thing was they were putting 10-year-old kids on 250Rs, no helmet, getting injured. Guys were out at the river with a tank top and flip-flops, drinking beer, no helmet, got hurt, blame the machine. It's like anything else. You have to be smart. You're not going to jump out of a airplane without a parachute. It's the same thing. I mean, learn how to ride, take lessons, get somebody to help you, wear your gear, be smart about it. In my opinion, just as safe as anything else if you're doing it the right way.
Personal responsibility.
Absolutely.
If you throw your leg over, it's on you.
Exactly.
Awesome. Brother, thanks again for coming out. This machine is a lot of fun to ride. The power is not overly aggressive. It's really tame. The only thing I didn't like about it is it doesn't stay on track. It wants to dart around a lot. But other than that, the power is so usable that you can just ride through everything. You're on the gas. You don't have to worry about it tipping and rolling. Just a lot of fun to ride. As comparable to the two modern day four-strokes, this one was really, really fun. I'm not as much a fan of the two-strokes due to physical inabilities, not the fact that the two-stroke's not a lot of fun to ride. But if you're going to ride a 350X, don't let anybody laugh at you. It's a great machine. Go out and have a good time. How are you, sir?
Good, you?
It's a pleasure to meet you.
You too.
Hey, thank you for coming out and playing in Dave Ham's backyard here. I mean, this is pretty awesome stuff, right?
Yeah.
How often do you get to come out and ride in this environment?
I only live about 20 minutes from here, and I try to get out at least once a month and test ride new stuff I'm doing, but I test ride every bike I build, and I can do that right on the property, so I get to ride all the time.
Most of the machines either have a heel guard Nerf bar or nothing.
I like just the heel guard.
And is that something that you've started adapting to yourself because you enjoy it, or?
I don't like the full Nerf bar because if you get stuck in a silt or something and all you have to do is put your feet down to move again, you can't do that with a Nerf bar.
Right.
So anything I can do to make it easier on me and faster,
right,
I've thought of it. So I've eliminated the Nerf bar and just went with the heel guard. And that's actually a Raptor 700 heel guard. As you can see, there's an R in the back.
Okay.
But I just adapted it and made some brackets to work with our setup, and
then
it works great.
And you've added the plastic piece on the outside
That's
for.
actually stock Raptor. Comes with the Raptor, and that adds on to that.
Is that a stainless steel clutch cable cover, or is that a hydraulic? I couldn't.
It's a stainless steel. It's a cover, but that cable is actually off of a Raptor 660.
Modified to fit this machine.
Yep, and the only modification you have to do is drill a second hole in the tab right there, and it gives you plenty of adjustment, and it gives you a collar that protects the cable.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. And you run aftermarket, larger capacity radiators as well?
Yes,
And-
oversized and fatter, yes.
For
GPI.
For better
cooling. Yes.
Excellent, excellent. And you like the flex bars, which I've seen on some of the other machines that are there that we've talked about today. Is there any other thing special mod that you do that you're in that I've missed?
Well, there's a lot of them on there. I mean, a lot of them are little things, but all the little things add up. So it's just more or less a preference of what I've figured out works over the years, like these guards on the pipes. This is actually a dirt bike guard. It's covered in rubber, and it's spring metal, so it bounces all the rocks off. And when the pipes are $1,500 a piece, you don't want to bang them up anymore, and you have to. So
Correct.
it's little things like that that really make a big difference.
Correct. Well, she's a fine machine. I really appreciate you coming out and talking with us today. Are you going to join us out on the trail today?
Yes.
Excellent. I can't wait to ride with you. I hope to see you out there. So riding the standard 86 chassis with suspension mods and the mods that have been done to this machine, it runs really well. It has great strong power. As we discussed before we went out on the trail that we rode, it's a lighter machine. It's going to feel more of the off-camber bumps, and it does. It does not track the same as your heavier four-strokes, your modern-day machine. For what it is, a 40-year-old 250R, dude, she's awesome. So, basically, for you three-wheeler guys, how was the day?
Super fun. Like I say, I think it was awesome to get your opinion on all these machines. I know you haven't rode a lot of the modern stuff, but to be able to be in one spot to compare the modern stuff to the old stuff and get someone's unbiased opinion, to me, that's awesome. I mean, we all have biases because we build our machines that we love to ride and race, and they're tailored just to us and our preferences, but to get someone honest opinion that's in the middle, I think it was cool.
Well, if you guys were going to change anything about it, what would you change?
The bike I'm bringing home.
well, I can't fix that for you, bro. I mean, really, as far as when you talk about the three-wheeler crowd and the things that the media is doing for you guys, and just the industry itself, anywhere. When was the last time you guys got together? You're all from really different camps, basically, and talked about three-wheelers, rode three-wheelers, and did the things that we did today.
Not in one group like this together. I'm blessed to have all these guys as my good friends, and I talk to them all on a regular basis, but to be all in one place at one time, thank you. Awesome.
It wasn't me, dude. It was all of us.
When's the next time?
When's the next reunion?
Reunion?
Well, I think we need to keep it going and keep it growing. I mean, it's cool that we got here and we got this, good turnout and this many bikes and this many guys, and I think we should get more and try different venues. Maybe go to do a track day one day, maybe do a dune day one day.
Glamis is in between you and us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys knock yourself out. No, really. We did talk to some old school three-wheeler guys too, and they were very interested about coming out. And if they're not going to ride, they're going to talk. They're going to sit down and talk with us and tell stories and just get into the three-wheeler thing. I had a lot of apprehensions about what to expect, when we got here this morning. But I had a great time. I really want to thank you guys so much for having us,
I have a question. all of you guys rode each other's bikes. So besides from your own, which one was your favorite of the day?
You got to pick one that's not yours, Paul. Which one's it gonna be?
I didn't ride nobody else's. I guess I gotta pick mine.
Julian.
I don't know. If I had to pick one out of the crowd, I'd say either the Banshee or...
We can't pick the four-wheeler there. This is a three-wheeler. This is a three-wheeler.
Banshee was the fastest one.
So you feel a Banshee trike?
There's always somebody on hallucinogenics.
You didn't say I had to be sober for this.
We don't speak four-wheelers.
It's hard to say because I only, as far as the other three-wheelers, I only rode Wrangles and Dave's. And if I had to race, you know, just in the 4 or 5 minutes I was out there, if I had to race 500 miles, I'd probably race on Wrangles. If I was going to ride one every day and go ride with my friends and joyride, it would definitely be these. One I felt was one more fun, a lot more like a three-wheeler. The other one I felt was more comfortable and less hard on the body.
Wrangle, what would be your pick?
You know, I actually agree with Julian 100%. I think Dave.
You don't get to pick yours.
Well, no, I'm saying I think Dave's is super.
You're picking the Banshee too?
Yeah. I'm a quad guy.
You're out. Get this guy out of here.
No, but the TPC, if you're looking as far as modern stuff goes, if you're looking for something that's as close as you're going to get to an actual three-wheeler, the TPC is going to be it. And I agree with Julian. Like everyday riding, it's probably the best one. You know, they all have their place, and what's amazing to me is how close they all really are. They're really not that different when they're built properly. When they're, you know, I don't know. It surprises me that they're that close. Like the TPC feels a lot like mine, just lighter steering, a little different feeling. But I was happy to see that it's actually very similar. So.
Definitely better handling on the conversion bikes. I mean, I rode one Vegas to Reno, so I got seat time on them, but you definitely don't feel the bumps like you do on mine. Like I said, you got to be ready to keep your ass off the seat for that one, and ride it out.
That's exactly what I would say.
I agree with that 100%.
Right.
You know, like I said earlier, they each have their own...
the 350X.
No, well, they each have their own purpose, and they're each fun in their own way. So, as far as the question goes, you know, I don't own a TPC yet. I'm having one built right now. So, you know, I can't say that's not my bike, but that's my favorite. But if you got to take that out of the mix, then I would definitely say Wrangle's Yamaha is going to be my favorite of the ones I rode today.
I have a soft spot for 250R 2-strokes and 350Xs. I probably have way more riding time on 250Rs than any other one, and probably more racing on 350Xs than I even do my TPC here. So it would be a tie for me between the 350X and 250R. I'm still old school in heart, and
but you haven't ridden Yamaha yet.
True that. But dude, when a 2-stroke comes on the power band, it's still gonna make me smile more.
He didn't bring his skirt. That's like. No, the Yamaha's a great bike.
No, I'll be riding here shortly too. So yeah. A 2-stroke when it comes on the pipe, it's gonna make me smile more than anything.
Oh, for sure. That's awesome to hear, guys. We need to do one thing here, and that is we need to wish Valeria some love here because she came out, worked really hard for us, took a lot of video. She's always behind the scenes. So if you guys would show her some love here on the video, because you know, she hears my praise all the time, but you know,
thank you for making it happen, not just today, but all the stuff you do. I know it's a lot. We appreciate you.
You're awesome.
Thank you. So
if I had to pick, you know, it's I want to take the 350X, the TPC, Wrangle's bike, and the 250R and make one. And I don't know how you're ever going to do that.
No. Well, you guys are awesome, and like I say, we all know that we're a dying breed here. And
I don't think so. I think that
you're helping keeping it going, man.
I think
I appreciate it.